Well, I think the government's part of the government's perspective here really is that really serious organised crime, the way that it's organising itself now is by using these sorts of networks. And there's a growing recognition from governments all over the world and law enforcement all over the world that organised crime is a long way ahead of them in terms of using the internet and using computer networks to do crime. And at least one of the arguments law enforcement and governments are making is that there aren't the legal frameworks in place to enable us to collect the information we need to do the kinds of surveillance we need to do. So from that point of view, I can see what governments want here and why they want it. I can see what their argument is. I can see that side of the debate. So that side of the debate kind of says it basically means that a citizen, that the internet is not a place where a citizen is sort of free to use it like other public spaces. It becomes a place of near total surveillance where the state can collect anything that I do out of that. On the other hand, the argument you tend to get from the state sometimes is this kind of what they call a big data argument, and it's that we aren't actually surveilling particular individuals. We're not actually. There's not some individual sitting in Asia looking at your bank account details and your transactions and your PIN numbers. Instead, what we're doing is accumulating these massive databases and we're looking for patterns at large. So the argument they make is that what we're looking at is these massive data sets that, yes, are made up of little bits of your personal data, but we're not actually prying into your life. So that's the kind of argument that security agencies and intelligence agencies are making for why this legislation is necessary and why it isn't an invasion of privacy. I don't know that I go for a conspiracy theory kind of, there's some ulterior motive, but I think you can at some level say that just in the same way that when you hear someone like Mark Zuckerberg talk, he has this, you can see he has this fantasy in his mind, like, if only we can collect all this data, think of the things we could do with it. And I think there's a level at which intelligence agencies and states feel the same way. So that these technologies, there's the potential here, there's this kind of fantasy of control. If we could monitor our citizens at every day in everything they do across all of their information lives, then we could probably find out way more about them, locate criminals, all sorts of things. And some states would say, we could find criminals much quicker, we could make public policy way more efficient, we could make the economy function better, we could identify different populations and their needs better. And they can come up with all these benevolent arguments for why they need this level of control. But I think it goes without saying, particularly for many citizens, many people who are concerned about public space and the overreach of the state and whatever, that they would say there's a problem there as soon as you start granting states and intelligence agencies increasing levels of control over our information lives and our lives. We're putting so much more of our lives into these databases. Then states aren't always going to do good things with that information. I think the average Australian citizen isn't going to recognise any direct benefits of legislation like this. I think that the argument would be that it means that there's less credit card fraud or there's less identity theft or those kind of things. They're the arguments for the public good in all of this. If states bring in legislation like this, you can't see the whole middle class saying, well, we're signing out of it. They seem to have a remarkable elasticity to just keep on, even though they think it's problematic, to keep on participating. And that seems to be the issue. And I think Australia is a particularly strong version of that. This is a very homogenous kind of middle class society. The average Australian, they bitch about the government, but they aren't suspicious of the government to the point that they would really strongly or deliberately resist legislation like this. I don't think. Certainly so far in Australia, you haven't seen a massive public discussion about the kind of information that the internet collects about us every day. You see niche political groups arguing about it, but you don't see mainstream Australians arguing about it.